Hi guys, welcome. This video is looking at estimation, and an estimation is an approximate calculation of an equation, of a sum, of anything that you're trying to calculate, and you're going to round off numbers beforehand in terms of to try to approximate something. So there's your estimated value. So for example, I have a set of values here, and you can really make up the scenario of what they could be: test scores, could be quizzes, and could be all sorts of things. And if I ask you to evaluate, or if you were to find out the total of this, you would give me the exact value. Okay, and the exact value is, well, you can put it in. We've done it. Put it all in your columns. But we're not going to do that in this case. We're going to round it off. Now, rounding things off, if I had a 11 and I round off to the nearest 10, we're going to look at this significant figure. That's going to indicate whether we should round up or round down. Okay, and because it is less than 5, we're going to round down. Okay, so then the nearest 10 value is going to be 10. Okay, now if the figure was 16, then again the 6 is your significant number. We're going to round up this case because it is greater than 5. So the nearest 10 value that this number is actually closest to is actually 20. So we're rounding it up in this case. Now the same thing goes with decimal values. Okay, so we have a 7.3, but we're going to round it to the nearest 1. So I might use this different color. So nearest 1, we've got a 7.3. Because 3 is less than 5, we're going to round it down to a 7. Then this is also a 7. 6.9. Now the 0.9 is actually higher. It's greater than 5. So therefore we round it up to the nearest 1, which is another 7. 6.8 is closer to 7. 7.2 is closer to 7. At the moment, all of these numbers are closest to 7. Plus 7.3 is closer to 7. 7.4 closer to 7. And then 6.6, because the 6 is greater than 5 again, we are going to round it up to a 7. Now, the good thing about this one is because they're all 7s, we can just multiply, because we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 8 lots of 7. So 8 lots of 7 is going to be 56. So that's your approximate value in terms of what the estimation is. Obviously, if you add the 0.3, 0.1, 0.9, but because these is less than 7 and some are more than 7, they're going to balance each other out to some degree. Now, just to put more estimation into practice, if we had the figure 39,461 and we wanted to round off to the nearest, say, thousands. Okay, another one, we could have the nearest 100, and third one, we could have the nearest 10. So there's different ways to actually estimate, and if there's no real prescription to how to estimate it, then I guess it's really up to you in context of what you think would be the most appropriate. But in this case here, it's prescribing you specific place values to round off. So let's have a look at this. So first one is nearest 1000. So the 1000 place value is the 9. And so we're wanting to decide or determine whether the 9 moves up to a 10 or the 9 stays as a 9. So the 4 is going to be your leading or your significant number that's going to determine that. Okay, the 4 is less than, sorry, not greater, it is less than 5. So that means you round down and it stays as a 9. So we're going to keep it as 39,000. So we rounded it off to the nearest 1,000. So 39,461 is closer to 39,000 as it is compared to being the distance to 40,000. So next is the 100. Okay, so the 100 is, we're looking at the 4 and we're wanting to know if we round it up to a 5 or keep it as a 4. So the 6 is going to be our value that's going to determine. So we need to look at that and see what it is. So here we got a 6, and because that is greater than 5, and mind you, I'm just going to put in a greater or equal sign. So anything that is 5 or above is going to be rounded up. Okay. So in this case, 6 is above 5. Then we're going to have 39,500. That's going to be our estimated value. And then lastly, nearest 10, we're going to look at the 6. We're going to determine and assess whether we need to round it down or round it up. And what I can see that the next value is a 1 that is less than 5, therefore it should stay as a 6, and we round it off to 60. It's closer to 60 than it is to 70. Just to finish off, I'm just going to show you 3 examples, and you can estimate it in a variety of ways. With this first one, I guess the main thing I want to highlight is when you round off certain values, you want to make sure that you round off the other values consistently as well. Okay, so with these 3 terms, I'm actually going to round it off. You can round it off 2 ways. You can round it off to the nearest 10. So maybe I'll just show you the two ways. So nearest 10 would make it 390 because the 4 is less than 5, plus 80 because the 6 is greater than 5, minus 120 because the 1 is less than 5. So I rounded off all 3 numbers to the nearest 10 value. Okay, if I'm going to round it to the nearest 100, then we're looking at the 3, and the 9 is greater than 5, so we're going to round it off to 400. The 7 is closer to 76 is closer to 100 than it is to 0, so we're going to put 100, and then 121 is closer to 100 than it is to 200. Okay, so we can automatically see that if we're dealing with the hundreds, it's a lot easier. We can see that the 100 minus 100 just cancels each other out. So that's going to be 400 as our estimated value. Okay, and then if we do the maths on this one here, 390 plus 80 is 470. And then 470 minus 120 leaves us with so we need 350. So both are estimated values, but depending on how you round it off will give you a slightly different result. With the second example here, my suggestion would be to round it off to the nearest 10 because you have 3 terms in less than 100. So what we'll do is 692 is closer to 690 because the 2 is less than 5. 32 is also less than, is closer to 30 than it is to 40. then the 19 is closer to 20 than it is to 10, and the 87 is closer to 90 than it is to 80. So just working our way through 690, what we can do is we can just really cancel out, our zeros, and then so 69 times 3 is 207, 2 times 9 is 18, and then what we end up having is 11.5 as our estimated value. All right, with the very last one, we're going to round it off to the nearest 10 again. And so in this case, we can see that 40 is already a whole, like a whole tens value or place value. So it's already rounded off. We don't really need to change it again. So I'm just only going to change the top. So the top would be closest to 540, and we're going to divide it by 40. Okay. If you really want to cancel it down, we can see that it is 27 divided by 2, and then you divide 27 by 2, which gives you 13.5. So there's your estimation. If you have any questions, let me know. Feel free to explore, rewatch this, and let me know if you have any troubles. See you later.